All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real music and doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and just like me. So, interesting developments in the Don Henley stolen lyrics or not stolen handwritten lyrics case. I'm going to talk about that because I think it kind of illustrates what's happening in the world of memorabilia and just the classic rock world, how it's way more valuable than any of us could have imagined. Speaking of classic rock, my good friend Eric Clapton, his album Meanwhile, again, a shout out to Davey B, who sent this to me all the way from the UK. He knows that things are going a little bit differently for me now. And so anything that I can get my hands on like this to showcase, which is Eric's latest album called Meanwhile. Folks, if you haven't listened to Meanwhile from start to finish, this is a pretty amazing work considering that it's definitely later in Eric's career. Eric sounds great. He plays great. And more importantly, the music on this has a lot of meaning and impact. If you lived through the lockdowns, this is a piece of memorabilia. Speaking of memorabilia. Now, Don Henley is being sued. He's now being sued by one of the men who was accused of stealing his handwritten lyrics to several classic Eagles tunes. Now, again, you may not be a fan of Henley, and that's not really the point here. So this guy acquired the lyrics, the handwritten lyrics from Henley. Glenn Horowitz, one of three men to stand trial for alleged theft, filed basically a counter lawsuit in New York Supreme Court against Henley and his manager, Irving Azoff, who Don Henley at one point said that he was kind of like Satan, but he was Don's Satan, which made Irving Azoff kind of cool in a way, according to Don. Horowitz claims the pair always knew the lyrics in question were not stolen. Now, Horowitz may have acquired these lyrics in a way which I guess wasn't theft, but I don't even think that's the point. Horowitz is a rare books dealer, and he was tried in this first case alongside Craig Inciardi and rock memorabilia dealer Edward Kosinski. The trio was trying to auction off the handwritten notes and lyrics for songs from the Eagles' classic album Hotel California. Now, this is really the dark side of this business. If you can get your hands on something, even if Horowitz and Inciardi and Kosinski acquired these lyrics in a way which wasn't necessarily theft. Say at the time Henley, he was trying to maybe write a biography, never got published back in the 70s, and he was working with writer Ed Sanders, all right, if you're following this. So Horowitz and Kosinski and Inciardi claim that they got these lyric sheets from Ed Sanders, who at the time was maybe going to write a biography about Don Henley. In 2005, Sanders sold the manuscripts to Horowitz, who then sold them to Inciardi and Kosinski. Seems kind of legitimate, except for the fact that who knows if Henley actually gave Ed Sanders permission to sell the lyric sheets initially to Ed Sanders or to other people. In other words, Sanders still had the lyric sheets. I know this is confusing, and I'm sorry. And he just decided, you know what? I'm going to sell these. I'm going to make some money off of this. If I can't write a book and make money from the published book, then I'm going to go ahead and sell this because these lyric sheets apparently are worth a fortune. The case went to trial, but was dismissed back last year at this time due to a late disclosure of documents by Henley's team. So, on a technicality, the case was dismissed against these guys. A year later, these guys are countersuing Don Henley. Now, again, whatever you think about Don Henley, what this case is about is this crazy memorabilia business. These guys knew they had something. They had something of value. They thought they had acquired it legitimately. All right. And so therefore they can do whatever they want with the lyrics. I don't know if that is ethical. That's the issue. Yes, I acquired this $1,000 bill that I found on the ground, even though the owner wants it back and never gave me permission to take the money. All right. And that's kind of what this is about. But this new lawsuit by this trio accuses Henley and Azoff of malicious prosecution. How is it malicious prosecution? Intentional infliction of emotional distress and more. Horowitz is seeking punitive damages. Now, Henley is making millions of dollars out on tour still with, I'll just say, his version of the Eagles, because that's kind of what this is at this point. In a statement, Henley's attorney, Dan Petrocelli, who's representing both Henley and Azoff, said that Don Henley was a witness and a victim in a criminal trial brought by the Manhattan DA. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Things between Don Henley and Donald Henley and Donald Trump have something in common. A trial brought by the Manhattan DA after a former indictment by Glenn Horowitz by a New York grand jury. The indictment highlighted the dark underbelly of the memorabilia business that exploited the brazen, unauthorized taking and selling of Mr. Henley's handwritten lyrics. The only malicious prosecution involved here is the filing of this case by Mr. Horowitz. We'll see what happens. But like I say here, the real issue is this idea that these guys, hey, we got some lyrics. These are really, going to sell for a lot of money. We're not going to say anything to Don Henley about this, how we acquired the lyrics. Henley, at the time, was probably not all that concerned about this. And now it has a lot more value than it used to. So we're going to try to make some money off of it. And Don Henley doesn't need to know about it. We're not going to ask him permission to do this because he's going to say no. I would have said no. And so that's the issue here. So the classic rock world has devolved into a fight about handwritten lyrics to a really good album, Hotel California. So an album I grew up with, had the vinyl, had the cassette, eventually had the CD. I think it's kicking around here somewhere in my library of music, and deservedly so, because it's brilliant. Also brilliant, Eric Clapton, his new album, Meanwhile. Meanwhile, back at the coffee shop, Eric is looking quite dapper in his hat and with his cup. Could be a cup of tea. I mean, it's the UK, so probably some good tea. Anyway, go check this out. Courtesy of my friends over at Surf Dog Records, a great record label. Great people who tried to get my other channel reinstated, but apparently they just couldn't do it because the powers that be have decided that I needed to move on. And so here I am. So don't forget, hit the subscribe button. Also, if you'd like to become a patron, if you're a patron, that means you get to communicate with me and other like-minded people. I post things. You can comment on those things. Every so often, I put up some content that will be supplemental to what I do here. Not too often, but every so often. Buy me a coffee or buy me a tea if you're in the UK. That can be very helpful. There'll be a link to do that in this video in the description. And also super chats. My friend PJ Rock, who is like my number one fan over there, he is helping me pay the mortgage this month. So thank you, PJ Rock, for doing that. And just everyone else on Patreon and all the new subs coming on board. We are approaching 3K. So 82K to 3K, but it's cool. It's cool. This is my last crack at this. And so I have kind of a different attitude about it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then, it's Publix or Walmart for me. I mean, why not, right? My son can do it. I can do it. So again, thanks to everyone. God bless you all, and see you soon.